Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Friending the Mirror, Making Peace with Your Reflection. I'm your host, Don Shaw. I'm an author and a professional speaker, and I'm really happy to say that this is episode 12, and it's called Handicap This. And you'll find out why it's called that when I introduce my two amazing guests. Now, Mike and Tim are my guests today, Mike Berkson and Tim Wambach, and I hope I pronounced that right because I forgot to ask him. Mike Berkson has cerebral palsy, and Tim Wambach, Tim Wambach was Mike's one-on-one aide in school dating back to 2001. As they spent more and more time together, the two of them began to form a bridge from one world to another, from Tim's world of mobility and accessibility to Mike's world of dependence and special needs. Even as Tim temporarily went on to different projects, he and Mike knew they had a story to share, and together they wrote a book titled How We Roll. Later, they founded the Keep On Keeping On Foundation to help those living with severe physical disabilities. And as if this wasn't enough, they created a two-man live stage show titled Handicap This to spread a message of friendship, inclusion, and tolerance. They have been touring the country, sharing their powerful message since 2010, changing lives wherever they go. So I am very, very pleased to introduce Tim and Mike, who have joined me on my webinar today. Hello, guys. Can you just jump right in and just tell us how you two started working together?
Well, hello, Dawn. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you very much. Would you like to start?
Do you want me to start?
All right, you start.
Okay, so the relationship has started back in the summer of 2001. It was actually June of 2001. I met Mike. I started working with Mike that summer as Mike's one-on-one aide. And we just developed a special relationship through the years. So that's how it started. I was Mike's one-on-one aide in school, and I started working with him over the summer before school. Mike and I kind of just did some fun things, like went to the mall and did some fun stuff during the summer to kind of get acclimated to each other and things like that.
Oh, I thought you were gonna tell the meet cute story.
The what story?
The meet cute. We have a meet cute.
I don't know what that is. A meet cute?
Yeah, it's when a couple has like a good story about how they met.
Oh, well, I was gonna let you tell that part because you're the cute one.
That's got nothing to. Yeah, but yes, I am. There's no doubt about that. You got the legs, you got the mobility, you got the bladder control, but I'm the cute one. So, anyway, back on topic. Like Tim said, like he started to work with me in the summer, but we met. It was the end of 6th grade, and me and my brother.
For 6th grade for Mike, I'm significantly older than Mike, so it was not 6th grade for me.
No, it was. Thank you for the literal clarification. That's what you're here for. Sorry. Anyway, so I was in 6th grade. You were however old you were. And I was doing the talent show. I was the host of the talent show with my brother David. And we would introduce all the acts, but I was always the one that was making the jokes and stuff, and I heard this really distinctive laugh, and it turned out to be Tim. So everything that I thought was funny, Tim thought was funny, and if you think that everything I think is funny, that's a good start. That's a good start to a relationship. If you have a similar sense of humor, that's good because I think everything is funny. What do you say?
Yeah, Mike definitely. Mike, well, that's one of the things that really brought us close together was Mike's sense of humor and our ability to find the same things funny, and that that was kind of the start of everything.
Or to find humor where the average person would not find it.
That's true. I think so. When I met Mike, I was 27. Mike was 12, and Mike was probably the more mature one of the two back then. So that probably helped that he was 12 going on 30, and I was 27 going on 18.
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah. So the the reason why well, like the reason you needed to help me and the reason I needed an aide and how you came into my life in the practical sense is that I have cerebral palsy, I have mixed quadriplegia, which means my arms, my legs are all affected by basically my brain can't tell my body what to do, and you're born with this. It's a brain injury, and because it affects every muscle in my body, including my speaking ability. But I'm good at that. I can speak, but I still have I still have a bit of a speech impediment. We call it an accent. But it basically has to help me with everything that I need to do. So I need help with everything. I need help with feeding. I need help getting dressed. I need help going to the bathroom. We could do a whole webinar about that. So cerebral palsy really affects my day-to-day life and what I do during the day. So it's really nice to have someone around me who you get along with and who can kind of propel you when you're having a bad day in a positive direction. And I think that Tim's strength is pushing, literally and figuratively, pushing me in a positive direction.
So, I have a question for you, Mike. Does everybody who has cerebral palsy, is it congenital? Are they born with it?
Yeah, everybody's born with it. You can't catch it. Like I said, everything, there's different kinds. Sometimes it can be your leg, sometimes it can be both your legs, sometimes it can be one half of your body, sometimes it can be pretty mild. So it's on a case by case basis.
Yeah, we like to say there's many different kinds and combinations.
And it's not progressive, correct? I mean, what you get when you're born is basically what you have for the rest of your life.
Well,
yeah. When you say yes and no to that question, Mike, like
yes, I would. So you can, I'll answer it, and then you can interject with what you see.
Sure.
Okay. So this is the way I would describe it. I would describe it as the younger you are, the more flexible you are. So the less tight you are. So I would say it doesn't get any worse. So it's not like muscular or it's not like MS where it's like degenerative. But as you get older, your muscles do get tighter. Like that, I guess. So technically, it doesn't get worse. It just can affect your body in different ways. That's how I would describe it. I think that's the simplest way to describe it.
Yeah, that kind of happens to all of us as we age too.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
like I'm 20. I'm 26, and like my mobility is more limited. Like that's how I would describe it. But some of that is surgery. A lot of that is surgery. A lot of that is size. Because the bigger you get, the bigger I get, the harder it is to move me, I would say. So when I was little, you could just throw me around. Well, you could throw me around. No one could tell. But like, would you?
Well, I
Go
was gonna
ahead.
say. Well, I was gonna say that's true. Like when Mike was younger, like in seventh, eighth grade, and even his freshman year of high school, when I would do a transfer by myself, where I would be able to get Mike out of his chair and all that. And then Mike had back surgery and a spinal fusion that they put two metal rods, 18-inch metal rods on each side of his spine. So since that surgery, it's really it's more now of a two-person lift. So then in that respect, then for his care and whatnot, Mike needs to have two people around him in order to transfer him in and out of his chair. So that has gotten quote unquote worse as time's gone by. Whereas Mike said before, when he was younger, you could easily, get him in and out of his chair with one person. But now that's getting more difficult, I guess is the best way to describe it.
Right, and you wouldn't need to like. Now we have to be like really careful, and it's like a two. Like I need two people for care.
Now,
So
Mike, I want to let people know that Mike did misspeak a little bit, as Adriana has let us know in the chat room. Technically, cerebral palsy can happen, during birth, but also it can happen immediately after, like with a stroke or something along those words. So it's not 100% born with it, but most of the time it is that way.
Well,
I learned something about myself.
it's basically born or shortly thereafter.
Exactly.
It's not going to happen to somebody who's 6 months old or a year old.
Right. Like I don't know when the symptoms develop. Like the symptoms don't develop right away, but it's not going to happen to you at 6 months old. You might notice it at 6 months old, but you always have it.
Okay, that makes sense. So does anything help? I mean, is there any kind of like massage therapies or some stretches or something that people help you do that could help?
Well, here's the thing of don't laugh.
I'm not laughing.
Yeah, here's the thing about that. At a certain age, they cut you off from therapy. In the sense that, okay, when you're little or when you're younger, you could go to therapy for the sake of therapy. At a certain point, they say, okay, you need to go to therapy with a goal. And I say, what is the goal? What is the goal? It's just that I want a good stretch. And they're like, but that's not a goal. And so it's really, so they do create home programs, but the problem is like there's a big difference between a professional doing it and someone at home doing it. So there's really nothing that they can do. I'm kind of stuck, sort of.
Well, that sounds like a flaw in the care system.
Well, I was going to say, I think also too, it's every person's different. So for Mike, for whatever reason, they have not been able to figure out the magic bullet per se, where he can get some relief in certain areas. Obviously, Mike's cerebral palsy physically is very severe, but there hasn't been a lot of relief in things that he's been able to get through the medical system.
Yes. Well said. So to that point, we would have like because I had all these what you might call adventures. You and I would like go through all this stuff, and we really started to use our message of improvise, adapt, overcome, because that's what we had to do. And that's kind of like, I'd say that's the catalyst to our real story. And just improvise, adapt, overcome. And Tim can talk about what that led to, because you did something and then I did something, and then I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I'd love to hear more about the development of your relationship, and because obviously you guys have been together for 14 years. That's longer
Yeah,
than marriages.
it's been a long time, probably the longest relationship I really have ever had. So Mike and I, like Mike said, we developed a special relationship. I started working with him in 2001, and as Mike's one-on-one aide, and I saw a lot of the injustices that Mike had to face, whether that be the stairs, whether that be people not expecting a lot out of him, and all, the list can go on and on. So I had this crazy idea back in 2005 that I'd take Mike and his twin brother, and we'd fly down to Orlando, Florida, to Disney World. We're from Chicago, so we'd fly down to Orlando, Florida, and we'd spend a weekend at Disney World. And then after that weekend was over, after the fun was over, Mike and David would fly back to Chicago, leaving me behind to run back. And in the month of August 2005, I ran 717 miles between Orlando, Florida, and Chicago, Illinois. And I did that to raise awareness for cerebral palsy, raise awareness for how Mike lives, but also to show people what was possible, because I wasn't a runner before I chose to do that. So it was that run that was kind of the domino that fell, that started, people started requesting Mike and I to share our story. So Mike and I would share our story to various different groups, and people just loved our message, loved us, loved our chemistry, loved what we had to say. So then Mike and I thought that, well, what if we were able to turn our relationship, turn our stories into a two-man stage show? And the idea we had, that was back in 2008. So we talked to a friend of ours. Her name's Molly Mulcrone, and she has a creative writing background and acting background, and we talked with her to develop the first script. And she came up with the first script through much work with Mike and I, and we had a lot of back and forth and a lot of different creative meetings and things of that nature. So Molly devised the first script that we produced, that we performed January of 2010. So that was our first time being in front of an audience with Handicap This. And since that show, Mike and I, Mike can attest to it, we've probably gone through 677 different rewrites and modifications and changes and improvements and things of that nature.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with more like, once I reach a certain age, the content needs to change, because sometimes the things we talk about and the struggles I went through, I overcame them, and I overcame them to the point where they're not relevant in the story anymore, or something new happened that's more relevant. And I like to improv it. So we've never done the same show twice. I'm not blowing my own horn. What I normally do is I just read through the script once, and I got it. What do you say?
Well, originally, yes, and then obviously with all the different rewrites and stuff, there's some.
Well, yeah, but I'm rewriting it with you, so it's still
right. Well, the thing, I guess the bottom line is that, like Mike was saying, different things have happened since the first creation of the script that we've implemented into the show. And the beauty of our show is it's Mike and I's relationship, and we have that ability to change something on a dime, on a fly. I mean, I remember one time we were in South Dakota, and we were doing a show on a Sunday afternoon, and literally on the drive on Saturday to South Dakota, we decided to completely, like, I guess you could say, turn the show upside down. And it's kind of hard to explain all the different nuances that we did, but we completely changed it on a dime. While we were driving to South Dakota, and we changed it up, and then that was so successful that we kind of used that from, at least that template for most of our shows. They're forward, but we're always making improvements. We're always making adjustments, and it's fun to kind of challenge ourselves to be able to change it like that, and to be able to perform the next day the changes that we implemented in a car or in a van driving to South Dakota.
And then on the way back, it's always, that worked out quite well when we did that, or we're not going to do that again.
Well, then that's the greatest thing. There's feedback, and there's different things that we get from audiences, and we, sometimes an audience member might not like something, but that's not necessarily going to mean that we're going to change it. It really depends on what message that we're trying to portray and what we're trying to put out there for everyone to see.
Yeah, and I think, like, depending on the audience, it reflects what we're going. The audience's response affects how the show, not what the show's content is, but how the show feels to us. Because if you get me in front of a college crowd, it's a lot different than us doing it for a business or something.
Or a high school or something, or grade school.
Yeah. But it's surprising how much it lends itself to any environment. Like, we can do it for anybody.
And that's the funny thing. Like, sometimes people will see our show and be like, well, you said XYZ. I don't know if that is going to work for our group. And it's like, well, you saw our public show. We're not going to use the language we use in the public show to first and second graders. Think of
the public. I would say think of the quote unquote public show as something more as still learning experiences, and we want people to learn things, but we also want to be entertaining more. I would say the younger audience is more of a teachable thing. It's more of a teachable thing, and it's more like we'll talk to the people that hire us, and we'll say, okay, what points do you want us to hit, and then we can put the framework with what they want through with whatever we have.
Exactly. I mean,
Hey, tell me, what is now you have a show, you can cater it to your audience, which totally makes sense. So what is the primary focus of your message, and how would that vary? Just give me a couple of examples of how it might vary from a younger audience to...
Right. I think the message probably stays the same for pretty much every audience that we hit. It's just how we deliver it that changes. The message for me, and I think Mike and I kind of have unique kind of takes on this. For me, the big message is I want individuals that are in the audience to not see a wheelchair in front of them. I want them to see Mike in front of them. And then when they leave that audience, I want them to see a person who just so happens to use a wheelchair. I don't want them to see the wheelchair first if they're out in public, because that is really where this is coming from. Is it's all about the person and the ability of the person, not their disability or not that they use a wheelchair. So that's, I would say, like the first really big message for us is that. And then Mike kind of has a little different
yeah,
on it.
Well, mine is more like, okay, and I change this from time to time. Mine's double. I want to represent the handicap community by saying, like, okay, I'm up here. You can relate to me. You can do whatever goal that you want to reach, whatever dream you might have. Don't be afraid to go forward. And the other one I have is just for able-bodied and not able-bodied people alike. You have a niche. You're good at something. Utilize 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 what you're good at. Utilize what you've been given. Like I can talk, so I'm gonna talk. Like that's kind of like the simplistic way of saying what I think. I think a lot of people take away with whatever message they want, and that's the other good thing is people can take whatever personal message they want away from it, and the only part that really changes is maybe something more important than something else. But I would say mostly it's like language and content, but the stories stay the same. And the relationship idea still stays the same. It's just some of the examples in the improv. Sometimes they have to tell me to tone it down.
So, Mike, if you had choices, if you had, I know that people react to you. I know what it's like to be stared at. I know what it's like to go out in public and people notice me. It's like, I know that Tim and my husband probably share that they're almost invisible when we're with us because, everybody's looking at us. But how can they not? I mean, we're both just so good looking. So we just attract all the attention.
No, what I say is, if people aren't looking at me, I'm not doing my job. I want people to go home and say, "You're not gonna believe what I saw at the mall today." So that's the way my mind is the complete opposite of what people. I want to be stared at. It doesn't bother me because it only occurs to me when able-bodied people point it out that other able-bodied people are doing it. Like it never occurred to me. It occurred to you a lot more. It occurred to Tim a lot more than it occurs to me, and it still doesn't occur to me. Like people will react to me, and I won't even notice it. Like I won't even notice it. What do you say?
Oh, sure, definitely.
We filter it. I know that because people say, "Oh, so this guy over here is staring at you," and I'm like, "Oh, I didn't notice." But
Yeah.
tell me, if you could change something, well, we just Mike, can you say something? There we go.
Sure.
If you could change how people react to you, if you wanted to have a message for people on what they could do differently when they see you, or how should they react, what message is that for people?
Well, if they do it, okay, if they're staring at me because they want to do something and they don't know how to approach me, you should just come up and talk to me, because in the 30 seconds that you're going to realize that we have more similarity than differences. And you can ask me any question I'll answer any question you want. I will answer. It doesn't matter what the question is. In fact, if I don't know the answer, I will make it up. Normally I know the answer. So I think you just don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask.
Okay, a question for you, Tim.
Yep.
Now that you've gone off and you've had other projects in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and I want to know, you keep coming back. There's just something about Mike's magnetic personality that just keeps drawing.
Right.
So tell me about that.
Well, I just think Mike and I do have a special relationship, and I think working together with Mike has been not only gratifying, but it's also been really successful. We've been able to make a lot of change, and we've been able to do a lot of things in society, from the standpoint of doing our show and really getting in front of different audiences, that really is something that I'm really passionate about. I'm passionate about helping make a difference, making a positive difference. And Mike and I do that every time we're in front of a state, every time we're in front of an audience.
And now we're trying to do that even more, because I'll let them explain to you more, because we want to get our message out to as many people as possible. But because of my physical limitations, we can't always do that. So we created a little something. We created a little something to help people that might not be able to bring us out to see us live. We have a little product that Tim can tell you about.
Well, yeah. What Mike's referring to, and this is actually something that we're really excited about. Mike and I realized that our business model was broken because if we were not traveling, we were not making money. And with Mike, being limited physically for traveling is really difficult on Mike. It takes a lot out of him. It puts a lot of onus on him to do that. So we decided that we were going to video record our show. Back in February, we were in front of 500 high school students. We video recorded the show. We did 2 shows in one day, and we used the footage that we shot, and we were creating an online product for high schools and middle schools to access via the internet. Now, the high school program is a little bit more robust. It has a little bit more. Well, it has online curriculum, very dedicated modules of learning materials for high schools, and then for like middle schools, there's pre and post discussion questions. But Mike and I are also available to do a Google Hangout like we're doing right here for a classroom, for an additional amount as well. So those are the new pieces that we've kind of added to our business model that are going to help us reach more people ultimately, and that way we can be in multiple places at once. Online is where obviously Mike and I. We've driven, 12 hours to do an engagement. We've flown, to LA. We've flown to Arizona. We've flown to Boston. We've flown to New York. We've done a lot of flying too. But we can only do that for one audience. Now with what we're doing here, we can be in multiple audiences and every day.
And hopefully we can get them discussing it a little more too, because we always say, I think my favorite part of the show is the question and answer period, because that's when you see, okay, that way you can really see, okay, this is what the individual took away from what we put a lot of work into. And if we can transfer that to a lot of different schools, a lot of different areas, a lot of different communities, it's going to allow us for the discussion to be greater and more, to use your word, robust.
Well, I just think we'll be able to impact more students on a grander scale.
Right.
And like Mike said, I think if it's in the classroom, I think that the conversations that they're going to have are going to be more deeper, basically. They're going to be deeper and more impactful than if they came to a show and saw us. Not that saying that can't start questions or discussions either, but if they're in that classroom with everyone, I just think it's more intimate, and I think it'll really advance the discussion and really get people talking about some real stuff that they should be talking about.
And I think our message works not better, but if you think about what we talk about, the intimacy of a setting does work better. I don't know if I can describe this. It's just, what I...
Well, the thing that's really cool about the product is we've used technology and, let's say, just call it graphics to really enhance the show and to move it and to keep moving it forward. So as someone who's watching it in school in a classroom, it's really going to have a really significant impact because it's what they're used to seeing anyway, right? You know, like with TV or MTV or whatever. There's a lot of different, you know.
Well,
Yeah,
and I think, yeah, of interactive like webinar type things with kids in the class is amazing. And I
That'd be
just
great.
open up the opportunity right now if anybody who is viewing, and we do have a few viewers.
Yes, we do.
Questions, please go ahead and just type those in, and we can answer them as they come in. And in the meantime, we have a few more things to talk about.
Sure.
Usually my shows run about half an hour, but I'm going to let this one go as long as it needs to within reason, because these guys are just so amazing and so interesting.
We're having fun. We're having fun.
Yeah, yes, we are. Yes, we are.
Jump over though. I mean, I know that you guys have a podcast, so talk about something that you talk about ways to access the classroom, but you've done like quite a number of podcasts that are available online via your website, correct?
Yeah. You can find it on our website. They can find it on iTunes. Just Handicap this. And yeah, Mike and I, we've done a podcast since October of 2014. So we've been doing it for a little over 6 months now. I think we have 31 episodes that are live for your listening pleasure. We talk about some really serious issues too. A lot, you know. Most of it is geared towards the special needs community. I would say our most popular show, Mike really dug deep, and we had a show about sex with disabilities, and that one.
And we're gonna have another one because people always want to hear about that. But that was our number. That's our number one listen to.
Yeah, I'll bet.
And we gotta give the people what they want. But no, and that's all I'll say about that. But it's I would say the mixture is okay. For the first time, we kind of just discussed different issues, and then lately the majority has been more guest and interview related.
Right, we've interviewed a lot of different guests. John W. Quinn, who has cerebral palsy, was in the Navy, U.S. Navy. We interviewed him. We have another interview coming up. It hasn't been posted yet, but it'll be in a few weeks. His name's Earl Granville, and Earl is a war vet. And we met Earl in Scranton, Pennsylvania. We did a show for the University of Scranton, and Earl came up to us afterwards and started talking with us and sharing, saying how much the show meant to him. And then as he left, I realized that he was missing his leg from the knee down. I'm not sure if it was his right or his left leg, but he lost it in Afghanistan. So we interviewed him, and he talked about his story and stuff. It's just great. And we've just interviewed so many, really a lot of amazing people too, like Amanda Northrup and our buddy Zach Fennell, Kendra Gottlieben. I mean, we've interviewed, and these are not names necessarily that people know about, but their stories are great. And for those people that are listening to this and watching this, check some of those interviews out, because they're just tremendous people that we're bringing in on our podcast. Brett Approved, he's a guy that we've met at Abilities Expo that he's starting, or he has started kind of like a, what was it, like not a Craigslist, like an Angie's List.
No, it's like a Yelp.
Or Yelp, I'm sorry, like a Yelp for travel, for like, hotel travel and stuff like that. So we've done a lot of episodes on travel and talking about different aspects of do's and don'ts and things that you might have to look out for when you travel, and just some.
Because I mean, I know that it's something. I mean, curiosity in human beings is a normal trait. And I mean, I have to admit, those are the type of things that we
absolutely.
Want. And we just able-bodied people. I'm sorry, but we have no clue.
Well, the able-bodied people have no clue until they have a clue, meaning until they're experienced it, until they witness it or experience it, or it brings it's into their purview. But before that, then it's really not an issue.
but it's not something that like I hold. It's not something I hold against them. I'm just glad that when the opportunity arises, I'm able to, or we're able to teach them a little something, and introduce them to the wacky and wonderful world of cerebral palsy, because I've never had a boring day in my life, and Tim can attest to that.
This is true. This is very true. So I don't know. We'd love to have some questions from the audience. If you guys are listening, Mike and I will love to answer any questions that you may have.
Ask me anything.
Yeah, and in the meantime, one thing I definitely don't want to let go is I know you guys have started a foundation called Keep On Keeping On. And
Yes.
because I was going to say something about how able-bodied people take things for granted.
Yes.
Well, you guys are helping people with families who can't take things for granted.
Exactly. So thank you for bringing that up. Mike and I started the Keep On Keeping On Foundation back it was the summer of 2007 when we started the foundation. And really, Mike is the inspiration for the foundation. And really, it goes back to my relationship with Mike and working with Mike and seeing things and seeing how expensive equipment is and seeing how expensive different things are, and just really just understanding that there's a need for help. And so we started a nonprofit organization basically dedicated to assisting those living with severe physical disabilities, cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, but really just any kind of physical disability, severe physical disability. So things that we've been able to do, we've been able to raise money. We've purchased hospital beds, wheelchairs. We went in a home and widened a doorway to make the home more handicap accessible. We put an elevator in a home. We've helped with the purchase of some service dogs for individuals. Really just all kinds of stuff that's going to help the families, help the individual. And we've also paid for like physical therapy, paid for some hospital care, things like that. So that's what we do. We have events throughout the year that raise money, and really how this all started was the run back in 2005. The run that I did it brought the founding members of the Keep On Keeping On Foundation together. They helped out with my run, and then we wanted to continue the momentum, and we started a foundation to do that. And the funny thing is, and I haven't said this too much, but in 2016, I am going to be doing the run again, running from Orlando to Chicago. And that's something that I did it before I was 31 when I did it the first time. I will be 42 at the time of the next run in the summer of 2016. So it'll be very interesting.
You look marvelous.
It's not about looks, my friend. It's not about looks.
All good. Think about it this way.
You don't look a day over 50.
Thank you.
Yeah. Think about it this way. You'll always run better than me.
I take great pride in that, Mike. I take great pride in that.
I'll crawl.
So, actually, that kind of brings me. I just finished reading your book, and your book is available via the website. It's called Roll, and is it hard copy only?
What you have is it's paperback.
Yeah, well, that's hard copy as anything that's not online.
Oh, I'm sorry. Duh. I didn't. Yes, that's how. At least right now, that's the only way people can access the book right now is.
You should do it. You should do an. It never occurred to us that you should do an audio book of it.
Well, I should. No, you're right. I should. It's not that I haven't thought of it. We've been busy traveling and everything. So it's something that I definitely. It's on the to-do list. It's just not on the. It's just not real high on the priority list.
But it never occurred to me until right now that would be the perfect thing to do.
All right, Mike. We have a question from Emily. The question is: when Mike was in school, were you in a self-contained class, or did you go into inclusion classes?
All right, self-contained. sound like I was in solitary, so I'm going to say that I was in, what did you call it?
Well, she said inclusion classes, but really, I mean, it was mainstream. Mike was in class with.
Yeah, I was never in special ed. I was always mainstreamed with I call it mainstream with adaptations, is the way I would describe it.
Right, and I was with Mike in class, so I would take notes for Mike and things like that.
I don't think I.
Reading.
The funny part is, you would take notes. I don't know why we took notes, because I could just remember everything everyone said.
Well, yeah, after a while, I stopped taking notes because Mike didn't need them or didn't use them. So I'm like, if you're not going to use them, I'm not going to keep doing them.
At a certain point, it was, I need you for, basically what I need you for is dictation.
Right, like when you were doing papers and stuff. Because I actually was also with Mike when Mike took some classes at a local community college for a few years. So I was with Mike then and helped out in that respect too.
Because my major school issue would be that I can't write because I can't hold a pencil. So that was basically the extent of my. And I'm an auditory learner. I trained myself to be an auditory learner, so I would just soak up whatever anyone said to me. But when I needed to write, that's what. I mean, you were there for a lot more stuff, but from a school aspect, that's what.
Right. Yeah.
That's what they hired you for, and then it blossomed into a bunch of different things.
Another question from Emily. This is a really good question.
I want to say something on this one because
sure.
When I read your book, the question basically is, did you have any trouble getting teachers to cooperate? And actually, maybe I should just let you tell it. There's a really cool story in the book about one of the teachers who actually helped you with a little bit of assistive technology.
Yeah, ingenuity. I'll let Mike. Why don't you take the Mr. Lesniak story and then this. So let me preface this for Emily and to say that this teacher was not the norm. This was someone that went above and beyond the call of duty. So most of Mike's teachers, there were, I wouldn't say issues, but there was some, they needed to have different conversations, and there wasn't a lot of fluidity or flexibility with his teachers.
They had to free their minds is what they needed to do.
But tell the Mr. Lesniak story. It's a great story.
And you should also preface it. He was not a special ed teacher either.
He was Mike's history teacher, 8th grade.
My history teacher. So anyway, one of the things I can do back then was I can't raise my hand. Now I can't get him down, but that's another point. But I can't raise my hand. So if I knew the answer to a question, I would just yell out the answer, and they would go, Mike, you must, it is imperative that you raise your hand. And I said, sure, I'll get right on that after I master the walking. But Mr. Lesniak was a little bit different because he was like, I got an idea. So what he did was he took like a boat light and he made me a switch. So all I would have to do was press a button and the light would go off. So the light was above my head, so it looked like a halo, sort of. It looked like a beacon, like a lighthouse, and nobody could miss it. And it did two things. Actually, it did three things. One thing it did was it just made my life easier. The second thing it did, it showed the rest of the class my ability to participate. It built a bridge between me and the class, and it also showed me that there were other people besides him beyond the Call of Duty and think outside the box and not just go by the textbook. Because unfortunately, people tend to go by the textbooks and don't really know how to break out of that box.
Well, that's great. That's I just love that story. I just thought it was so fantastic. But yeah, it's unfortunate that there are not. I mean, not every teacher should, do that necessarily. But
Right.
somebody cared enough.
Well, that's the thing, though. A lot of times, I think the teachers didn't necessarily know how to include Mike or how to necessarily deal with Mike. And I know vividly there are some teachers come to mind that I could tell when Mike wanted to be participating in the discussions or whatever, they might have kind of looked the other way or not really been so forthcoming with Mike and stuff. And it's unfortunate. But that's where Mr. Lesniak really set the bar high, and he was someone that knew Mike had a lot to say and knew that Mike had a lot to offer. And he didn't see Mike as a problem. He saw Mike as a student with the problem, and he was going to help solve it. And that's really all it takes. All it takes is someone to care. And Dawn, you mentioned that earlier, is you just got to care. So the teachers, I'm not going to say that the teachers didn't care, but they didn't put enough effort into caring. So,
like you say, they didn't know what to do. I mean, it's really hard when you have adults that are teaching the kids, and when the adults don't know how to behave.
Yeah, it's true.
I don't really like I never really hold that against the teachers. Like it was never like I'm mad because the teachers don't know what to do. It was just I never was mad at them. It was just nice to have someone who could think outside the box. Like I'm not one of those people that hold like, oh, noticeably the teachers are calling on me, because I think they were uncomfortable and they didn't know what to do. And
well,
at the time,
part of what we're about is trying to help educate them so that, I mean, wouldn't it have been nice if they had been more inclusive?
Yes, but at the
inclusive.
But at the time, the position I was in, I feel like I was in a position to tell them, here's what they should do. But now that I'm with the show and stuff, we can give our own suggestions and we can give our own opinions, and we can learn from real life examples. So we can help you change the landscape. Now we have the tools to change the landscape.
Absolutely. So I'm just going to jump in real quick. Emily just wanted to make sure that you knew that you're a pretty cool guy, and that oftentimes people are afraid of people that have differences, and she wanted to point that out. And I tend to agree with that. People just don't understand what to do, and they're afraid because they're afraid of doing something wrong. And I think you mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
So
and you really can't.
We're getting to a point where we really need to start wrapping the show up. You guys are just amazing. And of course, I'm hoping that someday I get to see your show.
That'd be great.
One of the things that I'd like to do, though, is I do want to give you an opportunity. First of all, it looks like there's a couple more comments. We'll address those for sure. But I also want you to share, if you have some insight, wisdom, something to share with people who might be in a similar position as Mike, but maybe not the same wonderful attitude, or if there was something out there to help someone make their life better, what advice would you give them? And you can both speak on this if you want to.
I'll let Mike speak first.
Okay, what I would say is don't be afraid to talk to people and keep your line of communication open, because communication is the most important thing. So if you're in a situation where you're feeling bad or or you're in a compromised situation, I would say the best thing you can do is communicate and have a discussion or have a talk with someone that can help you. I think positive communication is very important, because that's how I live my life. If something bothers me, I talk about it, and then we figure out how to take it from the talking about it stage and implementing it into real life.
Yeah, I would just echo what Mike said, but also, putting yourself out there is a huge thing, and trying things, trying to find what lights you up. I think that really makes things easier when you're actively pursuing something that means a lot to you. Those are the things that I would say. Mike has been, I guess you could say, blessed, lucky to have his family be so supportive and really be great advocates. His brother, his parents. So I know that not everyone that is in a situation like Mike has a family like Mike, and that is unfortunate. And that's also kind of why we started our foundation, because I knew that there were other people that needed help that didn't have the resources that Mike has. So, if someone wants to get in touch with us, we'd love to help in some way, shape, or form. We'd love to either perform in your school live or via the internet. But I think what our show really does, it really brings in understanding. And people have said so many different things to us about the show, but one of them is that they had a deeper understanding of others. And I think that's, at the end of the day, what's really great about it, is people are understanding others, and then they're accepting others. And when you're accepting others, that's when really the true growth happens.
Well, and I want to say, for the people on the chat, like Shamika and Emily, who are saying thank you for doing what we do, I echo that. I mean, you guys are just amazing with what you do, and I certainly hope that the work that I do, by having this show and by getting out and speaking myself. And I agree. I wanted to really reiterate what Mike said about communication being the key. I believe that this is one of the biggest combatants against bullying is communicating.
Absolutely.
Also, the support system idea. I know I was blessed with having a family who was very supportive, a family who took me out. And it just is so sad to me when I hear stories about people who are hidden away or who don't want to go out because of their appearance or their disability or whatever else.
Right.
We've kind of been acclimatized to other people to a point where we almost just don't even notice. And that doesn't mean that once in a while people don't say hurtful things and we don't get our feelings hurt, but I would rather be out there in the world doing than to be sitting at home not. And I think you guys totally understand that. Any
Thank you.
before I go?
I guess there's one last question. I don't know the answer to this, Mike. I know part of it, but there's another Emily question. Emily, thank you so much. We love all the interaction. The question was, Mike, after your back surgery, did you have any eating issues afterwards?
Nope. I still can eat what I can eat, and I still have trouble with some things, but it never changed.
But so I guess what I'll say is what happens after you eat did change, right?
Yes. What happens after I eat did change, but going in, it didn't change. What happens after that changed. And you would think it would be for the better, but it wasn't.
Okay, that was going to be my question, for better or for worse, but
for worse.
Don't need the details.
Much worse.
Let's just say, to just not to be crass or anything, Mike was regular before the surgery, and after the surgery, not so regular.
I'm very irregular.
Find something else to end the show on.
Well, you know, Dawn, you have to understand when you deal with us, you get the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I tell you, but that's what's been really good about what we do is we don't hold back any punches. We don't we push the envelope, and we're honest, we're open, and we're real. I agree that we don't want to end on this note, but
I'm glad that you took it, because the way I normally describe it is not that nice.
Right, yeah. I figured I had to give the.
You know the joke about that I normally say.
Yes, I do. I do. The gulag, yes.
Yeah, no, it's not the gulag, but it's.
I know. So okay, I guess what I'll say as a kind of like a parting shot from our perspective and from our show and what we're doing and what we're trying to do. A quick story. Mike and I were in Owensboro, Kentucky, back in September 2012, and we were doing. We did actually a couple shows there, and one of the shows that we did was in the morning for it was like 1,000 high school and middle school students, and we were really excited to be in front of this audience and whatnot. So this story was told to us after the show, but this was something that really proved that what Mike and I are doing is so powerful. So before the show started, there were these high school students. They could have been 8th grade, but they were like 8th grade, high school, like freshmen. They were in the early teenage years, and they were bullying the special needs students that were in front of them. They were calling them names. They were not being nice, obviously. And then our show started. And then they watched our show, and then after our show was over, those students who were bullying the special needs students, they went up and they apologized to all the students and to the teachers, saying how wrong they were, and they were sorry for doing what they did. So that was an immediate impact of what our show was able to do, and that's why we're so excited to get this show into classrooms for exactly for that example. It really will make an immediate difference.
Yeah, that's.
And that's how you understand.
Yeah, really, that's a much.
That's how you understand.
Actually, I want to say that Shamika did make a comment, however, that would be a good title for your next book, is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Of disability. Thanks, Shamika.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I just am so grateful that you guys agreed to come on with me, and it's been wonderful, just all the initial chat we've had ahead of the show, and of course, I knew it was going to be a fun show, and it has been a fun show.
Awesome.
Definitely my longest yet.
Well,
but I want to say, did you have something, Tim?
I was just going to say thank you, Dawn, for doing what you do, and for her listeners out there. Dawn is dedicated, and this show was on our calendar, I think, like 3 or 4 months ago. So Dawn is someone who plans accordingly and really takes her show seriously, and I love what you're doing, and we appreciate you having us on the show. Mike and I love sharing our story, and it's been the highlight of my day so far.
Well, thank you so much. I do want to actually, since you mentioned...
Thanks. What?
Well, go,
I was going to thank you.
Okay.
You go.
All right. I'm going to go ahead and wrap the show if you'll let me.
Yeah, wrap away.
And anyway, actually, since Tim brought it up, I actually am looking for guests for September and October. Probably I might do one show in November, but then I'll probably take December off. So I'm a little behind on booking my future guests, but if you have anybody in mind, by all means, get with me. And if you happen to see this broadcast sometime at a future date, I might still be looking for guests. But speaking of guests, I actually do have a guest booked for 2 weeks from now. I have Barbara Quayle, and she is a burn survivor. And that's going to be on Wednesday, July 7th at noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And yes, it's Wednesday, not Tuesday. And I try to be flexible for my guests. And Barbara has been active in supporting not only other burn survivors, but also through associations such as the Phoenix Society of Burn Survivors. Plus, she's also done a lot of publications. So I'm really excited to have her on the show to talk about what it's like to be a burn survivor and what kind of help she has to offer for people who are burn survivors. And as usual, I just want to end the show saying, be especially kind to other people, but don't forget to be kind to yourself, because that's important too. And with that,
we are love, we are one, we are how we treat each other when the day is done. We are peace, we are war, we are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other, nothing more. We are how we treat each other.